Welcome back to Desk Careers. I'm so excited to bring another incredible guest. Today we are meeting with the incredible Jinxiu Yao, who is an entrepreneur who's developing a collection of NFTs and leading a team doing that. Not only is he an incredibly inspiring young professional, but he's also a Desk alumni. Welcome back to Desk. How are you today, Yao?
Thank you for the warm welcome. I'm doing fine.
I'm so excited to touch base with you, and I know we had another conversation. You let me know about some of the work that you're doing, but I think what's really exciting right now is that our students in our community can see how a young man has really taken on unconventional pathways, the confidence that you needed to have to do that, and here you are today talking about your journey as a young entrepreneur, definitely in a very much you're in an industry that has a lot of attention right now, but with many people still unsure about what it is that you do. And I can't wait to get right into it. So before we come to where you are right now, I'd like to take you down memory lane. I remember the younger Yao. I remember him coming into my careers hub and saying, Miss V, I really want to do something with IT. And we started to explore and discover some of those pathways. Can you remember being that younger teenager?
Yes, all I knew at that time was I wanted to do something related to computers. Um, Maybe it's affected by my younger days where I spent a majority of time with my iPad. So apart from this kind of interaction, for in whatever I do, I always find myself coming back to tech related stuff. And at that time, I just thought, well, if tech is what I like, then maybe that's what I should follow.
And when you were in secondary school and you started to get closer to graduation, did at any point that drive to work in technology, did it ever dissipate? Did it ever kind of fade away because maybe other passions or other interests had taken the forefront?
I think as I approach higher education, and especially year 12, year 13, I think the major thing I lacked was initiative, self-initiative. Um, and that currently I can say it's the biggest counter argument to what I think is passion. Because now that I understand, passion is something that you're willing to sacrifice for, right? It is not something that you're good at or something that you do because the school tells you to do or because you need it for the grades. So now that I think back, during that time, I actually didn't have let's say a huge self initiative to start looking into how to apply my knowledge from school and actually find ways to use it in a self project. Um, so having said that, now that I've had the time to think, I started to look more into the digital entertainment aspects. So the digital entertainment applications of using tech, and in this case, programming, and and that's kind of what I've realized is that I am a creative person. I'm more of a creative person than just a strongly methodical, analytical person. So
I find that really interesting because most often young people think that if I'm into AI, if I'm into technology, I'm not creative. But here you are identifying yourself as being creative. Talk to us about what creativity looks like through the eyes of somebody really interested in AI and technology.
um, if you can sit in front of a computer and sit in front of a computer, let's say daily for 14 hours, and you are not bored at what you're studying, um, then like the tech is definitely for you. But if you're the type of person that can't do that and you are desperately want to explore, you know, do more projects. Like you want to use project-based learning approach instead of just sitting somewhere and then just read, or sitting at somewhere just in front of a computer, then I'd say that you're definitely more towards the creative side, I'd say.
Okay.
Because if you're a myth, yeah.
I really appreciate that. And I think it's important because it's almost like this idea or stereotype of what creativity should look like. And I'm sure you remember the students who were the creative stereotyped typed of students. They would have been the music students, the drama students, or the art students. And then there were the students who were very, like you said, methodology based, and they're looking at those subjects like sciences and maths. And then there was the creative, but very academic creative, and looking at literacy and then maybe some of those media students bringing in a little more of that creativity. But I really appreciate that you're now showing us that, you know what, you can really love the structure and the methods required and the discipline required for working with sciences and computer technology, but actually that is creativity. It just looks different to what we're used to it being different. Would you say that's correct?
I don't think I've too much input on that, but I mean, it sounds about right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, I know that when you left the college, you had a plan and then life happened. Talk to us about what that plan was and how it changed.
So I wouldn't call my original plan rather a plan, because it wasn't detailed at all. It was a direction rather. So that direction was getting into a reputable university that's ranked pretty high in the subject I'm applying to, and finding the cost effectiveness of that university and aiming to graduate and finally get a job position. But then it's maybe also because of the pandemic and how I did not adapt well going from high school to full-on uni. It was too rigorous all of a sudden, and I think I lost my rigor to study. And so I grew more and more impatient. I grew more anxious as to, is this something that I want to be doing every single day for the rest 3 years, for the rest of the program? And more, I just thought, I really want to take a few months, just a year, to settle down and do something that I've always would have liked to do, but didn't have the time and didn't have enough freedom, because at that time, academic pressure is all about just exams, getting good scores, and securing a place in uni. So never at once did I have the time to start something myself and see where it will lead me. Because on paper, the conventional route of going to uni, it is acknowledged by all, because it is the most efficient way for you to get from point A to point B. But I realized that it is only the most efficient way of getting from point A to point B from where you want to be is only if you know for sure that, or you have this confidence, or you have this general interest that you really want to do this course at this specific university. And so instead, what I did was I studied half a year in university, and I stopped. I stopped the course, and I came back to Dubai, and I started to discover. I started to do things, learning about Photoshop, learning about DaVinci Resolve. And surprisingly enough, the time I spent really working towards something that I believe in, it just didn't feel repetitive at all. Even though I spend, let's say, 14 hours a day going through a LinkedIn course where they walk you step by step on how to how to use the program professionally. And after this course, I managed to make a promotional video for an aeroponics farm where I went to the farm. I learned and I talked with the person of the farm, and then I used a drone. I shot footages, compiled all of that into a coherent promotional video. I did the same for another company called Green Ground, and they're promoting co-living in Dubai. And after that experience, I tried to solidify that experience by finding internships. So, but with that, of course, I had no luck, and I expected that completely because I mean it is highly unrealistic for anybody inexperienced to get a solid internship. And so then I picked up a book. I picked up lots of books and I started to read. I then solidified my knowledge in Java by going through a book called Head on Java. And after that, it gave me a lot of more insights into programming. And so I took that, and with a general interest and of course the drive to kind of wanting to integrate with the crypto space, because I see that this is a potential that everybody is going to tap into in the future. So I thought to myself, well, it's better to do that sooner than later. So then I spent a week reading another book called The Basics of Bitcoin and Blockchain. And that's what kind of kickstarted me to everything. It provided me enough knowledge to then, for myself, to know what to search on Google. So with that being said, I then started to search. I looked more into what NFTs and how NFTs have been made. At that time, it was around October time, September time. And NFTs are just blowing up. So nobody at that time will tell you anything about how to make an NFT, about how you can write your own smart contracts, all these technical stuff. You have to be able to connect to somebody who's already inside. So nobody's providing, let's say, any in-depth guide to anything. So you'd have to then do your research and try to find, well, if those are the NFTs right now in the market, then what do we have to do? And so with kind of like this generalized knowledge that I got from Photoshop, as well as the knowledge I got from programming, and then I applied those two, and then I just started to kind of think from a completed NFT product and to think, well, what kind of steps will we need to first create a product, and what kind of steps will we need to then market it? So I just discovered that alone, and then until I finally got a detailed plan, a working plan, and then I started to find members.
So it sounds to me, Yao, that you went the linear path that most young people will take, and as you described, it's more a path that is the most common, and it's more of a directive path. Everybody does it. I have to do it too, or it makes sense that I do it too. But you also mentioned something really important, and anyone watching this right now, I think we skirt around the impact of the pandemic on young people in terms of the rigor, as you described. You know, you lost your rigor. And I think that the consequence of the pandemic is much larger than educators are really starting to understand in terms of the ripple effect. So, but what I heard you say, Yao, is through that challenge, you found yourself, and you found the thing that you would do that you would be so interested in doing. And I believe that the rigor for learning came back, but you're doing it in a non-conventional way, in that you're in the driver's seat of your learning. You're in the driver's seat of connecting the dots between what you're learning and why you're learning it, and how you can bring those skills together. You're a driver in that focus that you're taking moving forward. So for a young student watching this right now that's saying, how do I do this? I don't know how to make that next step. If you could go back, what would you have done different?
So I've thought about this, and the only answer that I can provide is do not keep this to yourself. If you, I mean, everybody, when you're, let's say, in year 9, year 10, uh, unless, let's say, you are you're an avid reader, you like to read a lot, and so basically what I'm trying to say is that you have to communicate. You have to attend all the events that's being offered, whether you're interested or not, because you never know. You never know that maybe you joined an event and you talk to specific people at that specific location, and somehow that conversation led to you suddenly finding yourself, right? I don't think it is possible for anybody to live alone by themselves and then somehow discover that, oh, actually, this is what I want to do. Because a lot of the nowadays, a lot of the things that you do, you're all not doing it for yourself. You're doing it based on the environment. So that's why it's very important to talk to the people who's already in the environment, to understand from their experience, and then think to yourself, okay, so if right now I'm in the person who's sharing me the knowledge, and since he already done all of this, will I be interested to follow exactly what is he doing?
I love it. You're promoting spotlight interviews. I absolutely love it. And anyone watching this right now, this is not scripted. I'm so incredibly honored that you acknowledge the importance of listening to role models and people in the industries that you're interested in, and not keeping it to yourself.
But can I make a point? Is that the role models and the people in the industries, because when they walk through this path, they don't actually tell you everything that happened, because it's always the little things. It's always that daily what they do, then eventually it led to who they are. So it is ineffective to, let's say, go to a spotlight a day and then you just opting out because you don't find any interest. It has to be through continuous discovery and treat it as if a habit. If you don't just have this habit of constantly searching for new things, then I mean, you will never find anything new. So if you don't find anything new and you're always just in your comfort zone, thinking that if I pass the next chemistry test, the next math test, then somehow the stars will align for you. But maybe it worked before like this, but especially with the age of information, I mean, we are having human brains that's evolving at a much slower pace than the new information era, where processing speeds and communication speeds are having exponential growth. So for a brain like the new generation, who's having just a normal human brain to adapt to something that's adapting exponentially, that you have to always keep up with the new information. Else you would just you'll always just listen to what other people are summarizing for you. So you going there to kind of find those experiences yourself, you just have to constantly update yourself.
Amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
let's talk about your role as an entrepreneur. What's it like to be an entrepreneur? And then tell us more about NFTs.
Okay. NFTs, a lot of YouTube videos, they discuss it, right? But all of them fail to kind of explain it in something very, very simple. So in a nutshell, before we talk about NFTs, we have to talk about the technology NFTs uses. And the technology that NFTs use is the blockchain. And the blockchain really is just another use of the internet. So you might ask, well, then why do we call the blockchain? Why not just call it internet, right? And I completely get that. But in tech, because scientists or programmers, they're building newfound knowledge and extending old knowledge. So through each iteration, things change so massively that it can just be called whatever they want to be called. And what the blockchain essentially does is it simulates real life transactions. So imagine you're standing next to a person. You want to give 1 dirham to that person. We know that the transaction happened because you're giving something physical, something that we can see and we can touch. But how do you simulate the same thing virtually? If I was to send you, Ms. Vitoratos, right now, 1 dirham, that means I have to go through my bank, tell my bank, now you owe me 1 dirham less, and you owe Ms. Vitoratos 1 dirhams more. But our current system, it requires the bank, the middleman, who is keeping track of everything. So, and we trust the bank equally, and that's why the system works. But imagine if I was to simply just write in my trusty notebook called record. And in my notebook, I'll just keep transactions. And you just have to believe that in the future, if I ever meet you, I'll give you that 1 dirham. Would you trust me?
I don't know. I think it would
1 dirham
depend.
maybe, but if it's 1 million, then it's not, right?
I think it would depend. It's not as I understand what you're getting at, but I think it really would depend on the interaction, more positive interactions, and kind of like, are you a trustworthy person? But yes, you're right. Depending on the amount of money and the element of risk, I think is what you're getting at.
Yeah. As well as this, if let's say I want to send 10 million or 100 million dirhams from my bank to you, but if let's say the bank that I'm storing the money isn't even trustworthy, then would you trust it that I actually sent? No. Right? So because we have this issue where, let's say, if you're in a civil environment, if you're in a country that's stable, economy is doing fine, banks are all trustworthy, no corruption whatsoever, of course, just use the traditional banking system. But what if you're in a country that's not so stable? What if there is suddenly another world war and everybody is pulling money out of the bank? So then this trust doesn't work anymore because everybody by then would be for themselves. So what the blockchain does is there is a code, a program that starts the blockchain. And this code is copied over, let's say, 100 million computers. And those 100 million computers running this code is like lots and lots of simultaneous synchronous minions, and they're just writing down transactions. For example, if I were to write the message, I gave you 1 dirham on the blockchain, then all these computers running the same code will write the exact same message. So what this ensures is that people can't change what's already been written on the blockchain. Because if you want to change this, that means you have to change all the millions of computers recording the same information at once. That's basically impossible. And given this unique ability of the blockchain, that's why it is primarily used to keep records. And because of this technology, we can then use this attribute of, let's say, once you write something into it, it can be never changed. So this can be used to track ownership of things. And NFTs, they are basically ownership rights. You can call it that. So once I write onto the blockchain, I own a video of some Michael Jackson dancing. Then if that's the case, since you've already written this proof onto the blockchain, nobody can deny that because everybody can see the blockchain. Just like how if I gave you 1 dirham in real life, I can't just say, no, actually, I didn't give you the 1 dirham because I gave you the 1 dirham because you can feel that dirham. So what the blockchain simulates is exactly that. It simulates that whenever you do something virtually, everybody sees it. So nobody can deny it.
So how does one get involved in a career like this? Do you just apply for a job, or you're an entrepreneur, so do you just wake up and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to create my business plan, and I'm going to start my business? Or is there a different way to get into this?
I mean, right now it is like blockchain is mainly used for trading. So anything in the normal for example, finance industry, for example, when you're trying to loan out money, when you're trying to buy stocks, all of those are just copy over to the blockchain. But instead of finding a broker, finding a middleman, finding somebody professional to do everything for you, on the blockchain, everything is automated by code. So essentially, you don't have anybody in charge because everything is just automated by code. It is like a vending machine. If you want to buy something on the blockchain, you don't need to go through a shop because the shop itself, it is automated. So once you send enough money to the vending machine, the code itself as the vending machine will give back exactly what you're asking for.
Amazing. Talk to me about your top skills everything that you're describing right now just sounds, it's current, it's happening. You're not talking about a traditional career. You're talking about, something that's currently going on in the world where the majority of people don't understand what blockchain is. They don't understand the world of how it's changing and what NFTs are. And here you are, an entrepreneur, and this is what you want to be doing. It's not really a job. It sounds more like I'm trading, but I'm not.
Yeah.
This is not really my job. This is just something that I do in terms of my job. I'm not in finance. I'm not in banking. I do blockchain. What are your top skills for somebody thinking, hey, that sounds interesting? What do I need to do? Because earlier you mentioned not being a passive learner, not just attending a spotlight and just listening, to really engage in the learning and do that discovery, try to gain those experiences. So what are your tips for somebody thinking, hey, how do I get involved? How do I learn? What can I do? Top 3.
As the quote says, you put studies into practice. So studying, of course, is something essential. You have to do. As for me, I spent around just a good solid 1 month just learning about everything there is to learn. And I'm just talking about the basics things about the entire technology, from how it was first built all the way until modern ways of people using it. So if you don't understand this, if you don't have a foundation, don't expect to, let's say, suddenly know what you're doing in the field.
Okay, so gain that foundation. What else?
Read, watch videos.
Watch videos. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yao, if you could describe a typical day for yourself in your career right now, what would it be like?
At the start, since NFTs, they are tightly tied to artwork. So at the start, it was just simply just drawing, really, and coordinating with other artists to create the artwork. But the artwork is only 10% of the story. The rest 90%, I'd say confidently that 80% of that 90% is marketing. But marketing comes last. So the other 10% is getting the technical stuff right. So you have to develop a website, front end and back end. Because the back end, you have to link it to the blockchain. And to link it to the blockchain, you have to know how to code. And depending on what chain you're using, you have to know how to write smart contracts. Basically, you have to know how to code. You have to know how to draw. You have to know how to market. You also have to know how to keep up with the latest news. So follow all the different news. And if not, the most important thing is you have to find connections. Without connections, you're essentially not updated with the latest information there is. So right now, since everything is like still premature, like the blockchain and NFTs, they're all very, very early still. They're, although you hear that Facebook, they're announcing, oh, the metaverse is coming, but it is the prototype at least. But for something to truly, let's say, appear as if you watched an episode of, I forgot the Netflix show, but with something that we see in the TV shows, it's still a good 5 years apart, five years away for it to really become mainstream. So everything is still very premature. So that's why in the early days, things are rapidly changing. Like for example, when I started a month ago, there were only a few NFT projects. But right now, after my 42 cuisine, when I came back, people were like, there's hundreds of new projects coming out. And then there's hundreds of new tokens. There's, let's say, new ways of using it. More people are jumping into this opportunity. So the competition gets rigorous. And if the competition gets rigorous, you have to just keep up. You have to see what they're doing and take what's good and use it and leave what's bad. So you're just adapting and adapting. Who adapts the fastest wins.
Amazing. Yao, you said 5 years at least before it becomes like very common. Now that means that a student in year 10 or 11, really this could be it for them, knowing that people are going to know what I'm doing. And even those students in year 12 and the ones graduating, do they still need to go the conventional path, or is there the non-conventional path that can lead them to NFTs and the work that you're doing?
Talking about just the general shift of how you access information. Education is something that will change massively, but I'm not sure how much it will change. I feel like as online courses become more well credited and as people are able to become more independent in their learning, I think it's hard for me to say.
Yeah,
No,
and
I'm not.
I
No.
almost sense that you're trying to, because you're still very young right now. You're also trying to find your way. Although you found what you want to be doing, I almost sense that you still have that internal struggle of, am I supposed to be going that way, or am I okay to keep going this way? Do you think that that is an indication that you're still in that process of discovering where you want to be heading moving forward? Because, you know, what you're doing right now, you said it's what I do, but it won't be what I do. It's kind of one of the things that I'm doing.
Exactly. Because right now, I'd say that the experiences I'm having is I know myself better and I know what I want to do. And I know that I'd be definitely wanted to do something that's related to 3D and just interactive media in the future. So I know I still need to walk through a university because, of course, a university isn't just about the knowledge and learning. It is about, it's a place where you can find specialized connections, like those people who you don't just find over Discord, Reddit. It's people that you can meet face to face, and you know that they know that you together are interested in the same thing. So to have this group under experts, because all the professors, they're experts in their fields. You have this environment you don't find anywhere else. So if you want to specialize in any direction, university is still something that you have to take account of. I mean, unless somehow they completely emerged virtual learning with traditional learning and they somehow made it work, well then well, then maybe you never have to go to university. Maybe just attend like a virtual course in VR, where you're just a hologram in a virtual space.
I
Who
love
knows?
it.
But
I love it. I love it. I love where you're taking us with. I could continue asking so many questions. I definitely am very conscious of our time. Yao, you are inspiring. I remember you. I remember working with you. I remember the work that you did. You and your partner were the co-creators of esports in schools here at Desk. And at that young age, I saw the entrepreneur in you. And I am just so incredibly honored to be offering our students the opportunity to meet the young, incredible Jinxiu Yao, entrepreneur, developer of collection of NFTs, and a leader. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here. And I hope that you also enjoyed being here with us.
thank you for the interview. Yeah, and I hope some of my experiences did resonate with a few. But I'd say you just need to constantly find what you want to do through by attending events. You have to attend all sorts of events.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you
never,
so much. Yeah,
Never stay in your comfort zone.
definitely be comfortable with the uncomfortable. That's what we say in the world of Miss V. Thank you for being here, Yao. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And we'll see you at our next Desk Careers Digital Spotlight.